Hi all, welcome to this video on the IBM Netcool Omnibus Java Remedy Gateway. My name is Morali Punchlingam and I work with IBM Software Support. Okay, so in this video we're going to cover a couple of things. We're going to talk about the product overview, what the gateway does, talk about how to install it, configure it, how to use it, talk a little bit about migration, talk about the integration itself, how to troubleshoot it. Then we're going into a little bit into the deep dive in architecture, and then finally all the links and everything I mentioned in this video I'll post on the description and comment section for you to reference. Okay, so let's start off with the product overview. So the BMC Remedy Action Request System is a service process management platform. It operates on Unix and Windows platforms using a system of trouble tickets. The IBM Netcool Omnibus Java Remedy Gateway has a number of features. It's a bidirectional gateway. It allows you to turn object server alerts into remedy trouble tickets. Trouble tickets are updated according to a predefined mapping throughout the lifespan of the alert. Updates to trouble tickets originating in Remedy are fed back into the object server. You can forward journal entries from Omnibus to Remedy. We have uni or bidirectional resynchronization. And we have a JavaScript interface for processing updates originating in Remedy. The gateway has a store and forward functionality and also has a persistent cache. It's also multi-threaded. We support versions of Remedy 7.6, 8.1, 9.0 and now 9.1 as well. The gateway is supported on Solaris, AIX, Linux and Windows. It supports 32 and 64-bit operating systems. Okay, so let's talk about the installation. Right, so first of all, if you're on a version of Omnibus, say 7.30, 7.31 or 7.4, then you need to download the platform-specific DE installation package because you're going to be using Deployment Engine to install. Then once you do that, you can do it via the GUI method or the console method. If you're using Omnibus 8.1, then you need to use Installation Manager. So then you just need to download one zip file. It's just one part number for Installation Manager. And then once you do that, you can do that via the GUI mode or the console mode. Very straightforward. I'll cover that in a separate video. So here is a tech note talking about the release notes for the gateway. So as you can see, it gives you the part number for 8.1, which is just one file you need to download. Or if you're on 7.30 or 7.31 or 7.40, depending on your platform, you need to download the relevant part number. Okay, so all these patches come with a README and a description. Definitely worthwhile checking through that file. It'll tell you everything you need to know, and also give you a quick start setup and go guide as well. So once all that's been done, you need to check that you've got some prerequisite jar files on your gateway server. So you need to make sure on your Omnibus side you've got the jcon3.jar file in place, and you need to make sure you've got the niduc.jar file. So these need to be in the omnihomejava.jars directory. Once all that's done, then you need to make sure that you've got your Remedy API files in place. So the gateway requires the use of some Remedy API jar files. So you need to copy over the two files into your gateway installation. Right, so you can get these two files from your Remedy administrator who has access to your Remedy installation media, and copy these two files, AR API XX, depending on the version you've got, and log4j-1214.jar into your omnihomegates.java directory. Once you've done all that, you can run a minus version on the gateway just to check it's all in place. So let me show you that quickly. I'll just run a minus version. Okay, that will confirm that all my jars are in place. If you get any errors regarding framework, etc., this is the first place you want to check. Make sure your jars are in place first. Okay, now if you're using Omnibus 7.4, you're probably using JRE 1.6, and if you're using 8.1, you're using Java 1.7. Gateway requires a minimum version of JRE 1.6 or above. Suggest you use the JRE that comes supplied with your Omnibus installation. Okay, the next step is some notes on the configuration. So once you've installed the gateway, you need to define one user for the gateway on the Remedy system, and then we supply you with an omnibus.dev file which contains a form, which is a staging form for you to create tickets on, and it also creates some filters as well, or has some filters in it. So you need to speak to your Remedy administrator and ask him to import the omnibus.dev file into the Developer Studio. And once he's done that, you will see, as per the screenshot, that you'll get the staging form, which you renamed. And this is what your gateway is going to connect to and create tickets on initially. And it also creates two filters, Omnibus Close and Omnibus Modify. And this is for the use of handling updates coming back from Remedy. We'll talk about that more later on. Right, so then the next step you need to do is you need to go to your object server and create a conversions.remedy table. And this is very straightforward. You just need to nco-SQL into the object server and feed it the script that we provide. Again, steps are here. And then once you've done that, then you need to go and edit the default BMC Remedy props file, which is located in your OmniHome Gates BMC Remedy directory. You need to set a couple of properties. So you need to set the gate.remedy server or IP address of your Remedy server, put in the username and password for the user that you created on the Remedy server for use with the gateway, and then you need to give it the name of the object server you want to connect your gateway to, and then specify the form that you want to connect the gateway to. So in this case it's alerts 810. So here's a very simple example, just a couple of properties I've got in here, and as you can see, once you've set those, you're pretty much ready to start up the gateway. So there's various ways you can do it. You can run it by the command line, or you can run it under process control. If you're going to run it under process control, it's probably the best method to do it on Windows as well. And then once you've done that, we can start talking about what happens when you actually start up the gateway. So once the gateway is running, the first thing it goes and does is it creates a connection to the Remedy server, and it does a couple of checks. So it looks at the server, the port specified. Now you only need to specify a port if you're not using a port mapper. Then it looks for the username and password, authenticates, and then once it's connected to the Remedy server, it validates the existence of the main form. So that was the staging form that we point the gateway to. Once that's all been done, it used the attributes in the map, and then after that it checks for the existence of the form for updates. So it goes and checks for where it's going to read updates from Remedy back from. Okay, so that's also defined in the props file. Then it starts the alerts listener service, and then once all that's been done, the gateway is ready to receive IDEC notifications and process updates from Remedy. Okay, so now that the gateway is up and running, as you can see here, it's running under process control. Right, we want to start converting alerts from Omnibus into tickets in Remedy. And so one of the key files you need to look at is the BMC Remedy read writer table rep def file. So this is where you're going to specify your filter. So if we more the file, as you can see here, I have a filter criteria saying only filter with log rem ticket equal to 1. So this is only going to send tickets across from Omnibus that have a log rem ticket equal to 1. Okay, you can also do this for journal and details. Okay, so once that's done, it's going to send the events from Omnibus to Remedy that satisfy this filter criteria, and it's going to get a request ID. Okay, and if you look in your props file, your BMC Remedy props file, which you would have copied over into the etc directory, okay, there's a target ID field, and that target ID field is where you're going to get the request ID. Now, in our case, we store it in the location field in the object server. You may want to do something different, but first always start off with the defaults, get it working, and then start customizing. Okay. Now, this table rep dev file uses the map file, which is again located in the Gates, OmniHome Gates BMC Remedy directory, right? And then, as you can see, the map file just literally defines the mapping between Remedy and Omnibus, etc., and all the fields. So these are all the fields on the left-hand side are everything in Remedy, and all the fields on the right-hand side are everything in Omnibus. Okay, same for journals and details, etc. All right. So let me just show you an example. So here is my dashboard, and I've got 3 events here: 556, 715, 714. Okay, they're all syslog events, and I've decided that I want to create tickets for these 3. So if I go to my location field, I can see that I've got 3 tickets back from Remedy. So these are the 3 request IDs, 52, 51, and 53. Okay, so now if you go to your URL, if you open a browser, make sure your Remedy administrator set up your mid-tier. You can actually go into a browser and search for that. So I'll paste that search URL at the end of the video anyway. It will be dependent on the host and port you're using. Okay, so as you can see, 51, 52, 53. So these are my 3 events, and as you can see, all syslog events, etc. And you can even see the server serial. So 714, 556, 715, and there you go, 714, 715, 556. So as you can see, they have all been ticketed, and you can see the tickets come back. Okay, so just a couple of notes on migrating the older gateway to the new gateway. So there's no changes required on the Remedy ARS system to accommodate the new Java Remedy Gateway. There's no overlap between the old gateway and the new Java-based gateway. It uses different binary names and different instance names. If I show you the config files, the configuration files for the gateway, you'll notice a couple of changes. The old gateway had one config file, and it had a number of SQL files to handle updates coming back from Remedy. These have been replaced. So instead, now in the new gateway configuration, we have the following. We have a separate props file, a separate map file, and a separate table rep definition file. Okay, so that's where you're going to specify your filter criteria. I'll talk about this more shortly. And then we have the BMC Remedy JS file. Okay, so the BMC Remedy notification JS. So this is a JavaScript file which has functions in it that handle updates coming back from Remedy. Okay, and we'll talk a bit more about that shortly. Okay, so let's talk more about the integration. So let's start with Omnibus Events going to Remedy. So the gateway will create a request in Remedy based on the object server alerts. Okay, so it's going to go and look at the table rep def file, and it's going to look for the filter criteria. If none specified, it's going to send everything across. Otherwise, like in this journal example, it's only going to send the events that match this criteria. Okay, so it uses the status map, which is defined in the map file, And as you can see here, these are all your remedy fields on the left, and all your fields on the right are your object server fields. And you have the deduplicate feature as well now to optimize gateway performance. The gateway is going to create a request in the remedy form, calling the create entry on the BMC Remedy API. Okay, now let's talk about updates coming back the other way. So when you make an update in Remedy and how you're going to get that update into Omnibus. So what the gateway is going to do is it's going to go and read for updates in the alerts events form in Remedy every couple of seconds based on the update query interval property that you set in the gateway props file. And it also uses a notification query, right, which is by default this. Let me show you that in the props file. So if you go into the props file, it's going to go and read from this table the update form specified, alert events, every 3 seconds via the update query interval using the following notification query. Okay, and it's going to go and read it from the alerts events table. Let me show you what the alerts events table looks like. So the alerts events table looks like this. As you can see, it's got alert text with either an M or a C, signifying a modification or a close. And these texts are defined in your filter. I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. Okay, so your gateway is going to be reading from the alerts events table, right? And it's going to be reading these notification strings, yeah, back from that table. And if you go and look in your log file, for example, and you search for retrieved entry from the log, so you grep on that, you're going to see entries like this. And this is only going to read what you have defined in your filters back from Remedy, right? So if you don't have fields in here, you need to go in and add them. And we'll talk about that later on in this video. Okay, so here's an example. So in this screenshot you can see here, the administrator has added a number of other fields such as incident number, incident status, incident assignee. So if you want to get these fields in, you need to add them onto your Omnibus modify filter, right? And when you've done that, when an event is updated in Remedy or a ticket is updated in Remedy, these extra fields will be sent back. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the functions that are available in the BMC Remedy notification.js file. So first of all, there's an update function. So this is called when a ticket is updated in Remedy. So by default, we get back the severity field, etc. If you want to add any other fields, you need to add these here. I'll post a tech note at the end of this video showing you how to do that. And then there's also a clear function. So when the event is cleared in Remedy, it's going to set the severity to clear of the event in Omnibus, and it does this using this function. We've also got an error function, and then we've got the set target ID function. Okay, so again, start with all the default, get it working, and then start customizing it to your environment. Okay, so here's a quick section on troubleshooting the gateway with some basic diagnostics. So all the logs are located in the OmniHome log directory. We just have one log file for this gateway. You can set the message level of the gateway using the message level property in the gateway props file to debug if needed. By default, it's on warn debug mode anyway. And again, you can also change the location. Generally, startup problems are usually down to the jar files not being in the correct path. So ensure they're in the correct location, set your class path as needed. Copy your Remedy API jar files into the correct directory, the OmniHomeGates Java directory, and make sure you have the niduc.jar and the jcon3 jar in the OmniHome directory, OmniHome Java jars directory. Again, you're going to see errors in the log file relating to missing from class path, etc. If you're on a version of Omnibus prior to 8.1, make sure you've got the desktop, NCO desktop feature installed as well. Okay, so I'm just going to cover some basic problems you might see. So for authentication issues, you want to make sure that your username, which you've specified in the gate.remedy.username property, is correct. So a good thing to do is open up a browser and check if you can see those forms and see if you can open and create tickets using that user. If not, speak to your Remedy administrator about that. Again, same thing with the password. You'll see authentication errors in the log file. If you see any issues with the password, verify them on your Remedy form. If you see anything to do with problems starting the alert events listener, could be down to an incorrect value that you specified in your gate.remedy notification query, so check those. Generally, ARS numbered errors you need to speak to your Remedy administrator about. Okay, there's a common error you might see relating to an API config file as follows. So the default settings are used since we could not load the config from the file, exception caught opening stream to URL. So that can be resolved by creating a dummy AR system-based XML file in the home directory. And there's a tech note for this which I'll post at the end of this video. Okay, so let's go a little bit more deep dive. The product architecture, we use the Java Gateway framework, Netcool, nco-g-java. I will post a link to the latest Java framework patch, which is now at 5.0. I suggest you apply that to your current gateway installation if you haven't already. Okay, so talking about sizing, scalability and performance tuning. The gateway comes initially with gateway remedy dot connections set to 2 by default, so it's just got 2 threads. You can increase this to 5, 10, 25, so on and so forth, depending on your Remedy system. There is a blog which I'm also going to post at the end of this video telling you how to review performance metrics generated by the gateway. Okay, thanks for watching this video. I'm going to add all the links that I mentioned in this video at the end of the description section. And I'm also going to put some links to some blogs and also some tech notes for you to use. Don't forget to subscribe to the IBM Support TV channel and follow our playlists for upcoming other videos covering other products. Thank you.